What the hell is going on?
It's Donald Trump time.
So we're going to have win after win after win. You people are going to get sick and tired of winning.
Although I'm not going to win.
We're going to have people sue you like you never got sued before.
A Trump presidency might not be so good for rule of law.
If I say do it, they're going to do it.
But do what exactly? Sometimes it's hard to know what Trump wants. Which candidate said this?
I hate the concept of guns. Who said that? Hillary or Trump?
Hillary.
You'd be wrong.
You just can't throw everybody out.
Hillary. What? Donald Trump said that?
It's hard to know what Trump really believes. We'll try to find out tonight. We'll also show some never-aired video of my confrontations with Mr. Trump.
Big story if I leave, I guess. If I leave New York, that's a big story.
Finally, I say thank goodness for Donald Trump. Because of Trump, I can skate here. Badly, but I can skate here. This rink got built only because Trump got it done when government couldn't. Still, Trump for president? That's our show tonight.
And now, John Stossel.
This presidential race, one candidate has been the showstopper. He's won people over by promising wonderful things.
I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I tell you that. We're going to have win after win after win. You people are going to get sick and tired of winning.
I can't wait. I want to win. Maybe Trump will make us all winners. But I doubt it. It's possible, but I doubt it. Though I have to admire the art of the author of The Art of the Deal. He just sloughs off criticism. When told he polls poorly among women, he just says, I'll be the best thing that ever happened to women. When his opponents say evangelicals won't support you, Trump said the same thing.
I'll be the best thing that ever happened to him. I mean that, 100%.
Told he wasn't acting presidential, Trump said this.
I can be more presidential than anybody. More presidential than anybody other than the great Abe Lincoln. He was very presidential, right?
What's that mean? But apparently people like hearing boasts like that. Growing up, my mother told me, don't brag, don't exaggerate, people won't like you. But lots of people love Donald Trump, even though he brags and says things like this.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
He could shoot someone? Monica Crowley covers politics for Fox. You'll vote for Donald Trump over Hillary.
Hi, John. Yes, if Donald Trump is the nominee, absolutely I will vote for him.
And he doesn't really believe he could shoot someone and not lose voters.
No, and afterwards he said that was hyperbole. I was just making an example. But there's an important point to be made here, John. The presidency is a personification of how most of the American people want the country to act at home and abroad. So, every presidential election is a direct result of the presidency that came before it. So I think what you're seeing with Donald Trump is less about him, per se, and more about what he represents and his style. It's brash, it's flamboyant, it's tough, but it acts with strength and authority. And after 8 years of Barack Obama, who is largely perceived as being relatively weak at home and abroad, people want somebody who is going to lead and restore America. His slogan, Make America Great Again, there's a reason why it has such great resonance.
Yes, we have the hats here, but I don't want to be led. we're not sheep. And this talk of strength frightens me. I mean, strength often means tyrants.
But don't you want a strong president who is going to lead the United States as the beacon of freedom in the world and to lead us at home?
Strong president. We're going to bully other people?
No.
We're going to put up tariffs so everything costs more?
No, but to stand up for American interests, which after 8 years of this president, people feel that American interests have been trampled.
Stand up for American interests?
Freedom, democracy in the world, oppress people like the Christians in the Middle East.
We're going to attack more
No, nobody is saying that. But when the United States is strong in real terms, John, and or perceived as strong around the world, we know what happens. We know that our adversaries, the bad guys around the world, take their foot off the brake, or they at least think twice before they act.
Or they get more mad and want to kill us even more.
That's generally not been the lesson of history. The lesson of history is that when the United States is weak or perceived as weak, the bad guys advance, the good guys retreat, and the wheels come off the world, and you have major cataclysms like World War I, World War II. The American people are not ready for the United States to be number 2 in the world, or not even number 10. And that's where this president
Republican primary voters clearly are buying this, but odds are he's not going to become president. He's way behind in election betting odds when I look at it on my phone. Hillary's at 60-some%. Trump's down at 20%. She's going to be president because he turns people off.
That's the assumption that she is going to be the Democratic nominee, and she still has to clear the FBI primary, which is another whole issue. But look, assuming that that's
even
the race,
worrying about that, she's still way ahead of Trump. Because he's a bad bully.
That's a characterization that you will use, but there's a reason why he is winning. And again, it's about projecting strength. He is selling strength, and he is projecting authority and confidence, which are two things that are necessary but not sufficient for a winning candidate.
Sample of his strength. He admires dictators. In a Playboy interview in China, when the students poured into Tiananmen Square, the Chinese government almost blew it. Then they were vicious, horrible. They put it down with strength. That shows you the power of strength.
Right. Well, there's a difference between a Democratic leader exhibiting strength to champion American interests at home and abroad and defending and protecting the Constitution, and communist dictators like the ones that you cited. And when he's been asked about that, when he said nice things about Putin or the communist leadership, he says, what I am trying to say is that there is a virtue in being a strong leader, because it is about protecting the American people. That's why his stance is on, say, illegal immigration and the wall, or the trade deals that have been negotiated by both sides. What he is saying is, I will be a strong champion of the American worker and of the American people.
So the trade deal, he's going to impose tariffs. How is being a champion of Americans to put a 35% tariff on something and make poor people pay more for things?
Right, and this is an issue that I have with him as a conservative.
Good.
And look, I share a lot of the concerns about Donald Trump that a lot of my fellow conservatives have. Okay, I understand the phenomenon, but when it comes to nuts and bolts issues like this, I do have a problem with what he is talking about.
Trump, I think, is most destructive when he threatens trade. And recently, the Carrier air conditioning company announced that it'll build a factory in Mexico. So Trump said he'll impose a 35% tariff on anything they make.
Within 24 hours, the head of Carrier is going to call me, and he's going to say, Mr. President, we've decided to stay in the United States. That's what's going to happen, folks.
Look,
he's a bully, going to intimidate business. You have to come kiss his ring to get permission to do things.
This is another issue that I have, this protectionist impulse that you see in Donald Trump. But as a strictly political matter, if you want to know one of the reasons why he's winning, John, it is because he makes
people like hearing this stuff.
And
they don't understand economics.
But people still have pride in made in America. Now, to hire a worker here and produce a product, it does cost a lot more than to produce something in, say, Mexico or China.
It's going to cost even more if we can't import cheap ingredients from Mexico and China.
And a lot of this it puts poorer folks, right, the working class, at a disadvantage, because it ends up being a tax on goods and services that they need every day. But from a strictly political standpoint, what he is saying is, I am going to make sure that the American worker is protected. And they have felt raped, neglected, abused, dismissed, ignored, silenced for a very long time.
Well, just you wait. If Trump takes power, let's switch subjects. Maybe this is my selfish narrow-mindedness as a reporter, but the part of Trump's authoritarianism that bothers me most is when he threatens the press.
I'm going to open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. And we're going to have people sue you like you never got sued before.
I mean, let's not take the time to try to defend the free press. We agree on that. But he's a bad bully who threatens to sue everybody. He sued a Miss Universe contestant for $5 million because she criticized his pageant. She can't afford to pay the lawyers. He sues people to shut them up. I mean, he sued the county-run airport near his Florida home. He sued the town over the size of his estate's flagpole, the size of a banquet hall he added. On Facebook, I asked people what they think of Trump. Peter LaFlang complained about his lawyerism. Seems to have a lawyer-involved solution for many of the problems to bullying people. Bullying people will not work as president. What's he going to do? Sue the Iranians, the Israelis, the Chinese?
He does have a reputation as a businessman of being quite litigious. That's true. But if you tease this out, it plays into something, I think, that's a broader narrative that's helping him, John. Most of the American people don't like and don't trust the mainstream media. Okay? They think they're biased. They think they're corrupt. They think they're liars.
I mean, we're good, but all those other people.
Present company excluded, of course. But anytime a Republican candidate hits the press, and when they do it judiciously, it's more effective. When they hit the press, people rally to them. Now, nobody's gone quite as far as Trump saying, well, I'm going to open up the libel laws. We have libel and slander laws on the books, and they're tough for a reason. But when he says that, people don't get into the intricacies of the law. They just see him hitting the press and hitting back at people who are attacking him. And this is an important point. What Trump is doing throughout is mirroring the left. For decades, these are the kinds of tactics that the left has used, and professional politicians, Donald Trump is not one. This is why he's getting away with it and why he's got so much traction. Politicians on the right have been afraid to mirror the left. They're afraid of what the New York Times or the Washington Post editorial boards are going to be saying about them, or what Chris Matthews might say about them. Trump, because he doesn't need this job, is liberated to mirror the left. And those tactics are working for absolutely no other person in this race. Marco Rubio tried mirroring him by insulting him and so on. It damaged the Rubio brand. The Trump brand is brash, and it's a fight. He's a fighter, and that's what's paying off for him.
And he just gets away with what the other people can't. I guess that's another art that Donald Trump practices. Somehow he has this ability to say one thing, change his position, but not lose support. And you don't think he does this? Producer Ricky Ratliff compiled some Trump statements and then asked people, who said it, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton?
I hate the concept of guns. Who said that? Hillary or Trump?
Hillary.
You'd be wrong. Hillary. Oh my gosh. It just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans.
Hillary.
Wrong. That was Donald Trump. Hillary or Trump? I believe in universal health care.
Hillary just said that in the last debate.
Hillary. Hillary.
Seems so certain.
Oh.
Who said it? Hillary or Trump, talking about illegal immigrants and the matter of deportation? The people that have been here for years, that are hard workers, have good jobs, are supporting a family. How do you throw somebody out that's lived in this country for 20 years? You just can't throw everybody out.
Hillary.
What? Donald Trump said that?
Sounds like Hillary.
Yeah, Hillary. Donald Trump said that in 2012.
Really?
You are a total loser.
And maybe we're all total losers if we don't understand that the appeal of Trump has little to do with what he actually says or believes.
Who are you voting for?
Trump.
So it doesn't matter if he's a Democrat or a Republican to you, you're still voting Trump.
Right.
Why?
I just like Trump.
People just like him.
Yeah.
Some people.
No, it's true. Listen, as a conservative, I do have concerns that he is an unknown quantity. But when I talk to his supporters around the country and when I observe the phenomenon, what's clear is that so many of them just don't care that he's been all over the map. They like him personally. When he's attacked by the GOP establishment, Hillary Clinton, the left, the president, they form almost a protective shield around him. They rally to him because they think of him as some sort of deliverer from this entire corrupt system. Fair or not?
Thank you, Monica.
Pleasure.
Coming up, I've been critical of Trump, but there are some very good parts to Trump. We'll have more on that later in the show, along with some never-aired footage of my moments with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is now the overwhelming favorite to win the Republican nomination. The odds here at electionbettingodds.com show him way ahead of every other Republican. His success, however, has actually helped Hillary Clinton. She's the overwhelming favorite to become president. That's one reason that Trump's success has some Republicans freaking out.
It could be the end of the Republican Party as we know it.
The end of the Republican Party.
The end of the Republican Party.
If we did pick him, it would be the end of the Republican Party.
The end of the party? Probably not. People on TV often exaggerate. But even if that's true, says Nick Gillespie of Reason.org, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Why?
Oh, I absolutely don't worry about the end of the Republican Party. In fact, I welcome it, John. In the 21st century, at least, the Republican Party has been a disaster for freedom, for prosperity, and peace. When George Bush was president, he launched us into a bunch of badly conceived and terribly executed wars. He signed a ton of regulation. He increased Medicare by giving free drugs to seniors who didn't need them. He federalized education, created surveillance programs. He was terrible. And then the Republicans, even after they lost control of Congress, they were incapable of really reeling in Obama in any meaningful way. They couldn't beat Obama, who was the weakest incumbent to stand for re-election in memory. And now you have people who are, the major two candidates of the Republican Party are talking about deporting up to 12 million people and 4 million kids who are actually U.S. citizens. We don't need this party anymore if we are interested in individual liberty and freedom.
But they're better than the Democrats and most of the Republican candidates. I mean, you're no Trump fan, right?
No, absolutely not. I'm not a Trump fan at all. But I'm also not a fan of a Republican Party, which is constantly trying to regiment us in the bedroom and then, taking us into war and talking about creating a police state. How else do you get rid of 12 million people if you're not going to create some kind of very invasive system where the government is checking our papers all the time? We need to understand that what is good about Trump kind of cracking up the Republican Party is it creates an opportunity for a reorganization along more libertarian lines. The vast majority of American people are socially liberal and they're fiscally conservative. We don't have a party that represents that. The Republicans don't, and neither do the Democrats.
Well, there is this thing called the Libertarian Party, but it doesn't get much support.
No, that's true. And I suspect that they'll do well this year simply because people are appalled at the Republicans and Democrats. For decades now, people have been running away from identifying as either of those options. So this is a place for the Libertarian Party to do well. But that's not what I'm talking about, really. For several decades, we've seen a lot of conventional, traditional authorities kind of losing their way. Whether you're a priest or a professor or a stockbroker or certainly a politician. What the Trump insurgency is doing, and to a certain degree the Sanders insurgency in the Democratic Party, is showing that how feeble these establishments are. They no longer really have much energy. They no longer have the power to control their own people, much less the vast majority of Americans who don't want to be part of either.
Well, they have the power to elect Hillary, who would pass laws that would smother economic activity and make us all poorer. I don't think Trump helps
Donald
this.
Trump,
at one of the presidential
if
debates.
I could say,
let me bring up this other point. Are people being driven from the party? Trump was told at a debate that he's scaring Hispanics away from the Republican Party. He said this.
I'm bringing people, Democrats over, and I'm bringing the independents over, and we're building a much bigger, much stronger Republican Party.
He's bringing in Democrats. A lot of people who voted for him say he's going to win.
Yeah, that seems highly unlikely, and it's true that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are the two most detested presidential candidates in recent memory. One of them will have to win, unfortunately, but neither of them will really win with any kind of mandate. The Republican Party has already scared away Hispanics. George Bush, because he was good on immigration and because he actually had a kind heart and could speak Spanish and was comfortable around Latinos, he drew about 44% of the Hispanic vote in 2004. Mitt Romney got 27% because he said that Mexicans should self-deport. The Republican Party already has lost the Hispanic vote. You can't blame Donald Trump for taking that down to zero, really.
Thank you, Nick Gillespie of Reason.org. Next, my fight with Donald Trump. You're bullying these people out because they're...
Excuse me, that's wrong.
Something Donald Trump has taken grief for is supporting a law called eminent domain. It lets the government take some people's private property. Trump's tried to use that power for his own gain. He got New Jersey politicians to approve grabbing this lady's house so he could turn her property into a limousine parking lot near his casino. I once confronted Trump about that. You're bullying these people out because they're...
Excuse me, that's wrong. But for you to use the word bully, John, is very unfair. This is a government case. This is not Donald Trump.
Yes, it's Donald Trump. It's you and your cronies in government working together.
For you to call these people cronies is very unfair. To be calling good public servants cronies.
Well, that's not what's happening here?
No, absolutely not. Not at all. And I think it's a pretty sick assumption, and I think it's pretty jaded for you to make it.
In the old days, big developers came in with thugs with clubs. Now you use lawyers, you go to court, and you force people out.
Excuse me. Other people maybe use thugs today. Okay, I don't. I've done this very nicely.
Nicely? No, force isn't nice. And a court eventually denied him his property grab, which was good. However, Trump does have a point when he says this.
Eminent domain is an absolute necessity for a country, for our country. Without it, you wouldn't have roads, you wouldn't have hospitals, you wouldn't have anything.
Well, anything's an exaggeration, but many railroads, airports, parks exist because government had the power of eminent domain that allowed them to get the property so they could build those good things. That's my understanding anyway, but Trevor Burrus of the Cato Institute says Trump and I are wrong about this. How?
Well, man once said that Donald Trump is a hobo's idea of a rich person. And that's a really good description, because if a hobo's idea of a rich person is someone who kicks around poor people and tries to use the government to take their property, then that's what he has done. Now, he did this thing when you said in New Jersey, trying to take this woman's house, turn into a limousine parking lot. He says this helps people out. This is a good thing. It creates jobs, all these things. Now, of course, in 2014, Trump Casino in Atlantic City shut down.
All right, but that happens.
It happens.
This was a bad bet, and it was good he was stopped on that one. But shopping centers get built. That raises the tax base. Railroads get built.
Well, most shopping centers and most railroads were not built with eminent domain. So you can clearly do this stuff without eminent domain. And what that says in the Constitution is you need to do it for public use. It's not a public benefit, or it's not a general welfare clause. You do it for the public to use it, and that is not a shopping mall.
What do you mean it can be done without eminent domain?
Oh, it's very easy. So, for example, Disney World in Florida, well, they were able to buy up all the property needed for that. They did it by just asking people to sell their property, and they bought it all up, and they created Disney World. They created another
quietly go around and just buy the stuff.
Yes, absolutely. There are ways of creating contracts.
Some people won't sell. This lady wouldn't sell.
Yes, and that's an important point too, because what he would say was, like, I gave her a ton of money, or I'm going to give them a ton of money. Well, some people...
Well, let's bring that up. Donald Trump says that property owners can make a lot of money from eminent domain.
When eminent domain is used on somebody's property, that person gets a fortune. They get at least fair market value, and if they're smart, they'll get 2 or 3 times the value of their property.
That's in the Constitution. You have to pay them just compensation. What was tricky in the Atlantic City case is people had offered her $1 million. She said no. Trump got the politicians to force her to sell it for a quarter of that. Yeah. That was bad.
Well, yeah, if I went up to you and I said, you have your grandmother's wedding ring, I will give you just compensation for it, and you said, oh, here's $100,000, but to you it's worth $1 million, then that wouldn't be a good deal for you. And some people, that's what their property is worth. And that's why the market works. That's why private property works, is people have different valuation. It's
but what if they won't sell?
If they won't sell, then they won't sell. That's the way the market works.
But how do you build the railroad?
You can still build the railroads by buying it for fair market value, building it around them, or buying it up in quietly, as we said.
Well, if they won't sell, building it around them.
Pipelines can go around property. You need to respect property rights, because what happened, for example, in the Kelo case, when they said just a tax base can let you take someone's property, is that there's no limit to that. Anyone can come around and take a Motel 6, turn it into a Ritz-Carlton. No one's property rights is stable. What really creates wealth, as we know all over the world, are stable property rights. And people like Donald Trump are the kind of people, and his cronies, who make property rights unstable and make us all poorer.
And people say, what about pipelines like the Keystone Pipeline?
The Keystone Pipeline, without eminent domain, it wouldn't go 10 feet, okay? You need eminent domain.
Like so many things that he says, it is just factually incorrect. The Coke industries, for example, have built tons of pipeline with a type of contracting where they make sure everyone can kind of get in and get together and buy this. The problem is that if you don't have strong property rights...
So they have pipelines all over the country.
Absolutely.
They've never used eminent domain?
No, they have
the evil
a few
Koch
times.
brothers? Okay.
They have a few times. Well, you need to make sure it's for public use, and I probably wouldn't advocate for a Keystone Pipeline. It's not a public use. Public use is a public park, something the public is allowed access to, not a casino like Trump wants to build or a huge thing that's world-class. That's just cronyism, and it's not respecting property rights.
Thank you, Trevor Burrus. Next, something good about Trump. Donald Trump made it possible for me to ice skate here. After city government wasted millions in taxpayer dollars failing to fix this rink, Trump, he got it done. One reason some people support Donald Trump is his business success. They say it would be good to finally have a president who knows how to run a business and run it well.
I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second.
Trump brags about his wealth.
My whole life has been money. I want money. I want money. Greedy. I was greedy, greedy. I want more money, more money.
But now he says he wants to be greedy for the United States. He's going to make the country rich again. Actually, America is richer now than ever, but that's another story. We'll cover that later. The story I want to focus on now is whether he really is a good businessman. He was when he rebuilt this skating rink. New York City's government spent 6 years and $13 million trying to fix this skating rink, but they couldn't get it done. At one point, that side was 6 inches lower than the other side. That's government work for you. The reason we can skate here today is because Donald Trump stepped in. He said, I'll finish the rink. He finished it ahead of schedule and under budget. Good for Trump. But what does that really mean? Trump's critics point out that most of the work was already done by the time Trump stepped in. Still, he got it done when government was as incompetent as my ice skating. And Trump has had other big successes.
Thank you. These people are total winners. In addition to you, these are total winners.
His TV show was a success. It got great ratings, encouraged entrepreneurs, and Trump made $1 million per episode. Trump does own property around the world, like New York's Trump Tower, said to be worth almost $500 million. This magazine called his tower in Chicago the best large city hotel in North America. Trump says he's worth billions. People dispute the exact total, but he has gotten rich. However, how much business building skill does it take to get rich in real estate at a time when real estate prices have gone up and up? And Trump got a big head start. His father loaned him $1 million, says Trump. Others say it was $40 million or $200 million. No one knows but Trump. But if you start with billions, or it's millions, borrow money and invest in real estate in an up market, you get rich. It doesn't make Trump an amazing job creator. What bothers me is how evasive Trump is about his failures. Carly Fiorina confronted him about his bankruptcies.
You ran up mountains of debt as well as losses using other people's money, and you were forced to file for bankruptcy not once,
I never filed
not
for
twice,
bankruptcy.
4 times, a record 4 times. Why should we trust you to manage the finances of this nation any differently than you manage the finances of your casino?
Look, his casino went bankrupt because Atlantic City tanked. You can't blame Trump for that. You can't have free enterprise without some failure. But Trump was being tricky there where he said, I've never filed for bankruptcy. He personally hasn't, but his businesses have gone broke. Often. That means people who loaned him money, trusted him, got stiffed. He bought a small airline, which he named Trump Airlines. Of course, it no longer exists. He defaulted on his loans. He started Trump Magazine with his daughter on the cover here. It failed. He said Trump Vodka would outdo his friends at Grey Goose. 4 years later, Trump Vodka stopped production. Go Trump luxury travel search engine shut down. So did Trump Mortgage Company, the New Jersey Generals football team, and Trump Steaks, which he called the world's greatest. Anderson Cooper confronted him about recently implying that Trump steaks were still in business.
The steaks you showed, those aren't actually Trump steaks, right? Those
they're Trump. No, I buy them. I'm not going to kill the cow.
No, but they're not sold. Those are because the whole reason for showing those things was to fight back against what Mitt Romney said about a failed business.
Just so you understand, Trump steaks. We sell the steaks through my clubs. I have many clubs and hotels, and we sell the steaks.
But they're not sold at Sharper Image. They're not available to the public at large.
No, they're sold differently.
So that business is gone.
Cooper was right. Trump Steaks is out of business. Trump started Trump University.
It's going to be a tremendous venture. It's going to really help a lot of people, which is what we really want to do.
But now Trump University is closed and accused of deceiving students. But Trump says it was tremendous, a big success.
We have an A from the Better Business Bureau, and people like it.
You're going to see. You don't know.
It's a D-. Go ahead. It's Senator Ruiz.
And now it is out of business. This doesn't make me confident that Donald Trump is the guy that will do great things for America. But next, we'll look at some of my old unaired interviews with Donald Trump. There are some things Trump gets exactly right.
Look, they've got to be very careful with the spending. The spending is out of control in this country.
Here's something about Donald Trump that I like. He speaks like a normal person. It's refreshing and so unlike many politicians. I watched Greta Van Sustren's show the day South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley endorsed Marco Rubio. Greta asked,
do you think you can persuade the South Carolinians, who obviously right now don't agree with you, to vote for Senator Rubio?
At this point, she could just say, sure, or maybe, or I'll try, but no, she says this.
Well, let me tell you about South Carolinians. They are very independent.
And blah, blah, and so on. Rubio was just as evasive. Trump at least answers questions directly, even though he's often totally wrong. But that was a cheap shot, because there are some things Trump gets right. This week I dug through my old unaired interviews with Trump and found he was sharp about lots of things, like the government's unsustainable debt and how welfare encourages freeloading.
You have the people that produce, and you have lots of people that don't produce, and the producers are carrying those people, and that can only go so long.
Only go so long, and then what happens?
And then it all implodes.
What does implode mean?
Well, I think the society implodes.
He's right. When the welfare state runs out of other people's money, society will implode. When I interviewed Trump, he also wanted tax cuts. You once proposed a 14% tax, one-time tax, on rich people.
Well, I think that rich people can afford a certain tax, but once that tax is paid, you can't go above a certain limit. And what they're doing now is bringing it above a limit, and that limit is going to be driving people away. You can't do that. What happens is it gets to a point where you leave. You'll move to Florida, you'll move to someplace.
You haven't left.
I haven't left yet.
Are you going to leave?
Big story if I leave, I guess. If I leave New York, that's a big story. Look, the rich people are going to leave, and other people are going to leave. You're going to end up with lots of people that, as you say, don't produce. And then that's the spiral. That's the end.
He also said he wanted the politicians to spend less.
Hey, look, they've got to be very careful with the spending. The spending is out of control in this country.
Yes, it is. And cutting spending is a big part of what the Tea Party's about. And Tea Party co-founder Debbie Dooley supports Trump.
I sure do. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm nervous about your candidate because he said, you know, we want to have to cut spending. And he's proposed tax cuts, good, but he's proposed no spending cuts. He won't touch entitlements, which are bankrupting us.
Well, I do believe that Mr. Trump will surround himself with the brightest minds, much like Ronald Reagan did. And I do believe that we do need entitlement reform. And I do like his tax cut plan. For years, people have been, and conservatives have been talking about the need to cut our corporate tax rate, which was one of the highest in the world.
So you think he just doesn't talk about entitlements because he knows it's unpopular with voters, but once in office, he would make the needed cuts?
I don't believe he would cut entitlements. I believe there would be some type of reform within the entitlement
raise the age limit or...
I believe there would have to be. I would like to see more of a free market solution you know, as far as entitlements like Social Security reform, but I do believe that he will have the brightest minds and he will govern. And like I said, as a conservative, and I believe he will make the cuts and he will not touch entitlements, but I believe he will have reforms.
Of course, that's where the big spending is. I don't see how you make real cuts without touching entitlements. But one area where I agree that he gets the issue right is global warming. Trump is not all freaked out about that.
I think that there'll be little change here. It'll go up, it'll get a little cooler, it'll get a little warmer like it always has for millions of years. I think it's a big scam for a lot of people to make a lot of money.
I think it is a big scam.
Well, I think the jury's out on that.
You don't agree with him about that?
That's something I don't agree about. I don't believe...
But you'll still vote for him?
I will, because, you know, as far as global warming, I believe that we're damaging the environment. I do not believe the catastrophic global warming doom and gloom that we're hearing. I do believe that we should be looking at innovation, not regulation, and I definitely agree with Mr. Trump about that.
Good. He opposes raising the minimum wage. You're in sync on that.
I do too. I oppose raising the minimum wage. I believe the market should set the wages. I believe if we raise the minimum wage, it will cost a lot of young people jobs. When I was in high school...
I have to interrupt you because we're out of time.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. A lot of jobs wouldn't happen. Thank you, Debbie.
Okay.
Coming up, what bugs me most about Donald Trump.
Make America great again. We're going to have win after win after win. You people are going to get sick and tired of winning.
What bothers me about the success of Donald Trump is this magical thinking. Trump says if we elect him, there's going to be all this winning. Everything's going to be great. This is just nonsense. No president, no matter how competent, can make everything good. It's time people stop thinking that political leaders are the answer to our problems. It was that fantasy that brought us the Barack Obama frenzy. His delirious fans acted as if Obama's election would fix everything about America that they didn't like. That's why I wrote, no, they can't. Government can't fix most things, but free individuals can. And we do. Free people acting without government coercion accomplished almost all of the things that made America great. That's why Trump also ticks me off when he says,
we're going to make America great again. Make America great again. Make America great again.
His fans love that. They buy these hats. But what does this mean exactly, make America great again? When were we great in Trump's eyes? When we won World War II? Yeah, that was great. But it wasn't great that at the time we locked up Americans of Japanese ancestry.
The 120,000 Japanese and Japanese Americans living on the West Coast were rounded up and taken to internment camps where they would spend the duration of the war.
It wasn't great that at that time blacks were often not allowed to vote, not allowed to use the same drinking fountains or ride in the same buses as whites, or that gay people were beaten by police merely for being gay, and that they couldn't work for government or hold hands in public. Was America great when women were not allowed to own credit cards without their father's or husband's permission? Or when women were basically owned by their husbands and had no legal right to say no if the husband wanted sex? Was America great then? By the end of World War II, America did have the strongest military in the world and the strongest economy. We still do. The strongest military and economy. I resent this make America great again stuff. Trump makes it sound like everything's gone bad. He's not alone. Other politicians do it too.
We are looking at an economy in which the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Rich get richer, everyone else gets poorer. Rich are getting richer and everybody else is getting poorer.
That's just a lie. Yes, the rich got richer, but the poor haven't gotten poorer. The income of the poorest 20% of Americans has risen 48%. Middle-class incomes, 40%. Everybody got richer. That happened because of the free markets and relatively free trade. that we've had. Two things the Democrats and Donald Trump want to kill. Politicians and the media spread so much false bad news that Americans are getting depressed. For the first time in history, a majority of people say that their children will be worse off than they are. But it's bunk. Warren Buffett gets this one right when he wrote, "Babies born in America today are the luckiest crop in history. They will live far better than their parents did." They will, he says, because of America's economic magic. And that magic comes from individuals, not politicians or presidents. If that magic continues, it'll be in spite of people like Trump and their magical promises.
Make America great again.
This is a bad slogan. I have a new one. Let's get rid of that. Donald Trump and all presidential candidates, get out of our way. Don't impose your destructive tariffs and immigration limits, libel laws, mandates, property grabs. Just get out of our way. Let's have a government that allows us to make our own individual choices. A few presidential candidates definitely have the right idea about this. They're the libertarian candidates. We'll find out which one we like best on April 1st when the top polling candidates debate on our Libertarian Presidential Forum here on The Stossel Show. I look forward to that. Libertarian politicians will get out of our way. That's our show for tonight. Good night till next time in our new time slot again, 9 p.m.